Hello, what's going on everyone, and you're welcome to a brand new video. And in this one, we're going to be taking a look at how to generate a dedicated virtual account number. And I'm doing this because quite a lot of people out there are actually afraid of using their ATM cards to buy things online. And as a result of that, it gave rise to people looking for ways to actually generate something like a virtual account number that people can use something like a USSD code to send money to, whether it's a wallet or to pay for a particular product or services online. They just prefer sending out the money through something like a banking app or using something like USSD to actually do that and then relax. Okay, so they're always afraid of using their ATM card because they feel like people could steal their credit card information and then they later use it for something that is actually not allowed by them. Okay, so and I feel like actually taking a look at that using a Paystack virtual dedicated virtual account endpoint to actually do that. Okay, so that's what I want to do in this video, and it's actually very simple. So I have a sample that I want to demo for you guys here. It's just like a sign up page. You just need to fill in your first name, last name, email, and then phone number, and then hit submit. And what this really means is just I'm just trying to mimic a registration system. Let's say you have a website that people will just have to come and fill out a form, then submit with their personal details to sign up with you. And once they submit that particular form, you are going to have to pick their phone number, pick their name, pick their last name, and their email. And then in creating something like a personalized wallet for them, you're going to have to include something like an account number, a virtual account number that they can actually transfer money to update their wallet or do whatever that they want to do within your application. So I hope that you guys understand what I mean by that. And it's actually an in thing right now. Quite a lot of websites are actually doing that. Okay, ranging from large to medium scale websites. So let's demo the application right now. And before we actually do that, I want to go to my Paystack dashboard right now, and I want to go to customers. And these are the customers that I already have based on the testing environment that I have. Okay, so I've done quite a lot of tests. Today is actually I think today is September 15th. I've done like 4 tests already. And for instance, this is the account belonging to me. So if I hit this now, open it up, and you're going to see that this account already exists. But then if you hit on this place that says dedicated virtual account number, you're going to see that there is an account number that is actually attached to it. Okay, and this is the bank name that you can actually select and then send money to. And I'm actually on the test mode, because if you take a look up here, you're going to see that I'm still on test mode. If I switch to live mode and then go through this registration, the account name that is actually, the bank name that is actually going to show up here is going to be a real bank name. Okay, something like Wema Bank. And I think that Paystack actually allows only Wema Bank and their Titan Paystack account virtual account numbers. That's just the two account bank names that the bank that they actually work with at the moment. Okay, so we're going to demo this right now. Let me just go back. What happens now is that if I create a new registration from this demo, is going to come in here. So I'm going to do that right now. So let's say Dove as the first name, and let's say that his last name is going to be Israel, and let's say Dove at gmail.com, and let's go ahead and enter his phone number right here, which we're going to just make up one for him. And so let's say that this is his phone number, so I'm going to go ahead and then hit on submit. Okay, so let's just make sure that that phone number is actually correct. So this should be 11 characters. So let's go ahead and then hit submit. And as you can see, that registration actually goes through. So it says thank you for registering, and then this is the bank name. If you take a look at here, this is test bank, because we are still on test mode. And it's going to also generate something like an account name that you are going to see when you try to send money to that particular person. Okay, so it's going to be in this particular format. But then what we have in here right now is just since we're on the test environment, so it's actually using this particular thing, but it's going to use something like your name right here. It's going to be your name or something of that nature. Then after that, we have the account number right here. Look at the account number, and then for the first name, it's going to print that out. This is the last name, and then the email that is associated with this. Actually what we are doing right now, and then we can actually go back to that page that we're actually coming back from. Coming into this page from. Okay, so let's take a look at our environment, and if we refresh this page right now, that particular customer creation must have happened. Okay, so let's refresh that. Alright, so that's beautiful. If you take a look at that, you see Dove at gmail.com, Dove Israel, and this is the phone number. So the registration came in, and if you click on that, it's going to open up. And if it opens up, you can actually check the virtual account number right here by clicking on this place. You see that it's actually the same thing that we have on that particular place right now. You see that? So it's just basically the same thing. So that's just what we're going to build in this application, and we're going to kind of reach two endpoints. The first one that we're going to reach is going to be that of the that's going to be that of the customer endpoint, to be able to create a customer. And after reaching the customer endpoint, we then reach how to the endpoint that actually helps us create this dedicated virtual account number, and we're going to see all of that as we move along. So there's no need actually bothering ourselves trying to explain that at this moment. So let's keep on moving. Let's go to the first thing I want us to do is to go to the documentation page. Okay, so if you go to paystack.com/docs/API/dedicated-virtual-account, we're going to see this particular documentation. Okay, and you can actually go through it and then be able to create what we're actually planning to create. Okay, and I want you to actually use the opportunity to read through this. You see that the dedicated virtual account numbers actually enabled for only Nigerian merchants, and then to actually manage something like unique payment accounts for their customers. And this one is actually very important. So I think I mentioned this before now, that they only support Wema Bank and that of the Titan Paystack Bank. Okay, that's the two account that the bank names that they actually support at this particular point in time. And after that, before we actually dive into working with this particular endpoint right now, I want you to understand that to be able to reach this particular endpoint and then create the virtual account number right now, if you take a look at this place, this is actually the endpoint that we're going to get to. And that endpoint is going to require that we have an authentication, that we're also going to set the content type to application JSON. And after that, the data that is going to need is going to be just customer code. Okay, this line designates the customer code, and this one is actually optional. Okay, we can actually, if you choose Wema Bank or choose something like Titan Paystack, you can actually specify that right here. But I'm not going to do that. I want it to automatically choose whichever bank it wants to generate for us. Okay, so that is just what that is. But we're not going to like do that right now. Okay, that will not be the first thing we want to do. However, what I want to do right now is to open up the customer endpoint, because the reason why I don't want to do that with this particular endpoint is because I don't want to be going manually into this particular place and then copy the customer code, then go back to my code and then paste that. Okay, paste that right here to be able to allow the creation of something like a virtual account number that we're planning to create. So for that reason, I want it to be in such a way that we have to go to the customer creation endpoint first. So I'm going to open this on a new tab, and we should be able to build a customer first from here. And I also encourage you guys to actually do that. Build a customer within Paystack. If you're actually using Paystack, first of all, build a customer right there, and then you can pick their customer code from that place, then redirect to the endpoint, which is this dedicated virtual account number creation endpoint. So now the first thing we want to do is that we're going to have to create a customer, and the endpoint to reaching that particular customer or creating a customer is right here. Look at it right here. Okay, and it's going to require like basically it's going to need four things. We're going to have to need an email account. We're going to need something like a first name, last name, and then finally we're gonna have to put something like a phone number. All of these things are not actually compulsory. I think that the only thing that is compulsory right here is gonna be just the customer email. Okay, so let's try to work on this right now in our what is it called, in our code environment. And to start the coding right now, if we go to, I want to create something right here. So what I want to do now, if I go to my HD docs, I want to create a new folder right here, and we're gonna have to name this folder anything. Let's just call it something like maybe virtual, something like that. It just can be anything anyway. So let's just call this virtual, just for the purpose of this tutorial. So I'm going to open that up. I need to just basically open that up with my Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to just, let me go to my Visual Studio Code, open that up, go to open folder, and I'm on HD docs. So I'm going to just click V, and this is going to be virtual, and I'm going to open that up right now. And that's going to basically open up within my Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to create quite a few files. The first one I'm going to create right now is going to be the index.php, and after that I'm going to create another one which we're going to just call something like van.php, which is virtual account number. That's the place or the page that I'm going to use to basically generate the account number. And after that I'm going to just like add something like a CSS. So I'm going to just say style.css right there, and that's basically the three files that we need. The first one I want to work on right now is going to be this particular one. Okay, which I'm going to just first of all generate something like a HTML boilerplate, and I want to enter my title right here. So I'm going to basically just say something like generate dedicated virtual account number, something of that nature. Then I'm going to basically link to my CSS immediately. Let's do that without wasting much time. So this is going to be link, and we're going to just say rail, and this is going to be just style sheet. And after that, we're going to just say href, and I want to set that to go to the style.css, and that's just basically that. So within the body parameter right here, we're going to just create something like h2 tag right there. So this is going to be h2. I'm going to just basically say something like let's say I'm going to just copy what I have on that. Sorry about that. Just opening I want to copy. I want to go back and then copy this. This is what I want to use in the H1. So if we go back to environment, I want to go ahead and paste that right here and then close out that H2, and that is just that. So after that, I want to go ahead and then create something like a form. So I'm going to just say form. Now we just say action. And I want to just basically set that to be equal to an empty strings, because I'm going to actually use this particular page to process whatever that is actually coming from that form. So this is going to be empty strings, and after that I'm going to just set a method to the following. It's just going to basically be a post, and I want to close out this particular form. So this is going to be form, close that in there, and the first thing I want to create within this form is going to be a face label. So this is going to be label, and I'm going to just basically create the first name. So this is going to be first, and let's go ahead and then close the label right here. And after that, we need to create something like an input for the label. So this is going to be input, and we're going to just say type, and the type of this particular input is going to be that of the text. So we're going to just say text, and we need to give that a name, guys. So this is going to be name. Let's make sure we type name correctly, and what we're going to give that as a name is just going to be first dash name, which means first name. And after that, we basically we can just use something like HTML5 required attribute to help that make that required. So I'm going to just say required, and that should be just it for that particular line. So I should be able to just close this out, and basically if we put this in something like a div, I think it will not be actually bad at all. So let's just try to put this in a div. So this is going to be div. I'm going to just give that a class of something like form group. So let's call that form-group, and let's close this out here, and then try to let's basically close that div. So that is just that. So I'm going to basically copy this particular form group right now and then paste it down here, then modify that for the last name. So this is going to be last. Let's change this to LA for last name. It's going to be text, and let's change the name to LA for last name, and that should also be required. And after that, we need to work on that one, which is just meant for the, I think basically it's going to be the email this time. So I'm going to paste that, and I want to change this from what it is right now to email. So let's just change that to email, and I want to change the type to something like email. And after that, we need to change the name right here to email. So let's just make sure that that's actually email, and that is it on that line. Then for the last one, which is basically going to be the for the phone, so we're going to just basically just change this to phone number. Let's call that phone number, and we're going to change this instead of text. It's just going to be called a HTML5 kind of stuff. So I'm going to change this name right here to phone, and that's just that right there. I think the last thing that I need to do on this page right now is going to be to just create a submit button, which I think I should basically put that aside of that particular div right there. So let's put that in here and just say button, and let the type of this button be something like submit. So we should just set that to submit. So it's going to be submit, and after that we need to like give that a name. Basically we may not even have to need a name right here, so I'm not going to add a name right here. So I'm going to just say something like, I know we use there something like submit in the demo, but I'm going to just change that to something like register, or the register now, something of that nature. And that has nothing to do with our code anyway, just the text that I want people to actually see. So let's make that capital letter, uppercase letter, and let's close the button right here. So that's just button. And that is just that. So if we go to our browser right now, and what I want to do, I want to copy this URL and then paste that on the next line, not on the last line, but on the next tab. And I want to change what we have in here right now. I think we call that virtual, and I want to open that up. And this is the form, guys. This is the form, and I know that it looks just absolutely ugly, but that's just it for now. So I'm going to close out the former one, so that we'll now focus on this one alone. Okay, so this is how it looks right now. And what I'm going to do right now is that I want to bring in the CSS, but I don't want to spend the time typing the CSS. What I'm going to do is just copy and paste the CSS to this place, and then I'll show you that in a moment. All right, guys, so I've gotten the CSS copied to the clipboard. I want to paste that right here, and if you scroll to the top of this place, you see that the CSS actually began from the body right here. So we're just sending the fourth family, giving it a background color, and after that we'll have a container. I think we have not actually added a container to this. So we need to just go back to this index and I want to add a container around this place. So there's going to be a div. Let's go ahead and call that class and give that particular class something like container. So let's just call that container just like that. And we should basically make sure we wrap that particular div around everything that is on this particular page. So down here, we're going to just say div just like that, and that should be it. So if we go back to that, you see that we're styling the container right there. After that, we started working on the form group, and we worked on the label, and after working on the label, we worked on the text, the tail, and that of the email. We just tied that right there, and after that, we worked on the button, that's the submit button, and after that we worked on this is just the hover effect. And for this one, we have not actually created this yet, but I just want it to be there, and it's just going to be for the registration details to display the results, and we have a thank you kind of stuff right there. So we're going to see some of these things, I mean all of these things as we move along, because I'm going to create some more things when we get to the next page, this particular one. Okay, so for now, let's check our browser for the CSS we've added. Let's see how it is looking. And I think it's looking just like the former what we saw on the demo, except that the button right here has not changed to register now. All right, so that's just that. I think that we have the UI of the index page out of the way. So the next thing that we actually need to do is to start working on the PHP itself. So I'm going to just throw in our PHP tag right here, and let's close that out down here. And within this place, we're going to just spill out the code. All right, so within this particular place, what we want to do right now is to grab onto whatever that people type into the form. Okay, we want to be sure that once they click on this submit button, we're able to listen for whatever click that the person does right there. And to do that, I'm going to just put that in an if statement. So I'm going to just say if, and within this place, I'm going to just use a server super global variable. So I'm going to just say $_server, and it's a super global variable. So it's going to need a parameter that is called a request underscore. This is going to be request underscore method right there. That's just basically an index, and we're going to just set that to be equal to, post. So anytime we make a post request within the form, we should be able to do something right there. And in fact, I'm going to just, let's grab onto the first name right here by just saying first underscore name. That's just a variable. So we say first underscore name. I want to set that to be equal to something like a super global variable called post, and let's go ahead and then put that right here. So this is going to be the name that we have in the form. So if we go to the form where we're working on the first name, you're going to notice that the first name right here is first dash name. So I'm going to copy that and then go back to that particular place and then put that right here. Okay, so let's put that. I'm sorry about that. So that's going to be just first dash name. I don't know, I didn't actually copy that right. Then I'm going to save this, and if I echo this out right now, let's say I echo this out and go back to the form, make sure it is actually saved. And if you refresh this page right now and I try to fill in this particular form, let's say Godwin, and we'll go ahead and then let's say we'll hit submit. You're going to notice something. Okay, all of the other, well, I think we need to basically fill out all of the forms because we'll have required attributes right there. Let's just basically fill the stuff out. Okay, and let's go ahead and hit submit. And I'm going to notice that we have Godwin printed to the screen for us. So that means that we're actually getting whatever way people are actually typing in that particular form. So for that reason, let me just wrap something like a security function around this. This is going to be HTML, Paystack, Charles, and there is actually a ton of these that you can actually use, but I prefer using this particular one. So I'm going to copy this line and then duplicate it maybe 3 more times. So I'm going to basically modify them for the other ones that we have. So the next one is going to be a last name right there. I should be able to change this to last name also, and the next one is going to be that of the what is it called, the email. So we should be able to change this particular variable to email. So this is going to be email, and what we'll have within the form as a name is actually email, so we should just change this to email. And for the last one, which is actually phone number, so I'm going to just create a variable. I'm going to just call phone, and in here we're going to just basically change this to phone. So this is going to be phone, and that should be that, guys. So basically gathered all of the things that we need from that form. So everything is in their own separate variables right now, and the next thing that we need to do is to go ahead and then do the integration of the Paystack payment gateway. We're going to have to reach the, what is it called, the customer creation endpoint. So I'm going to put a comment right here and reach I say reach customer creation endpoint. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, instead of typing all of the code that is actually involved in this particular place one by one, I think I've actually done this quite a lot of time on how to basically connect to an API. So I'm going to just basically copy the code, paste it here, and then go through it with you. All right, so let's do that right now. So I have that copied into the clipboard. What I'm going to do right now is just paste that right here, and let's scroll from the beginning. Let's scroll to the beginning. So that basically started from right here. Okay, so where we are just defining the URL, and what we're going to do right now is that we're going to get the URL that goes to the customer creation endpoint right away. So if we go to our browser and we go to our documentation, and you see that this is basically the endpoint that goes to the customer creation kind of a thing. So I'm going to copy that and then paste that right here. So that's the endpoint. So after we've gathered the endpoint, next thing that we need is to work on the data, the array that we're going to need. And this is just basically for this section. Okay, this email, first name, last name, and then that of the phone number right there. And we have provisions for that already. So those are the variables that we just gathered just now. So what we're going to basically do is just replace those things with all these variables that we have in here. So I'm going to copy first name right there and take this away, paste that, take the next one, which is last name, copy that and put it right here. And the next one is going to be the email, get that, paste that right here. And finally, we're going to just bring in the phone number, which we should just paste against this. Okay, and notice that there is no comma at the end of this particular one, because that's just the last item right there. It's an array. That's why we have square bracket in here. Okay, you can alternatively use something like an array, what is it called, function right there, but it's okay. The way that we're actually using it makes it a lot simpler. All right, so we have that in place, those data in place. And here, I think basically I commented everything that we need to know right here. So we're just initiating the core session right here. After that, we're just setting the SSL certificate checker to false, so that it does not actually force over to HTTPS. And after that, we kind of configure the session based on the type of a request that we're getting. Okay, so, and that's just what we did up to this particular place. And after that, we have we are trying to convert the request data to a JSON object, and that's why we have JSON underscore encode right there. And we have to pass in this particular variable, which contains all of the input that we have just created right here, meaning first name, last name, and the rest of that. So that's just that. And after that, this is the headers. Okay, we're working on the headers, and if you take a look at the documentation, they talked about headers right here. Look at it. So we're going to need something like authorization, which is your API key, and we're just basically going to send the content type to application JSON, which is right here. So that's just what we did with this particular section that you're seeing. And after that, we basically try to run the code by this is just a way of executing the COI. Okay, so we just basically run that, and what we actually basically run is the URL. So if you go to the tab, you're going to see that we're basically running the URL right there. And let me just make sure. Yeah, so I just basically running this particular thing here, the COI. And after that, we are just checking for errors right here. So we just first of all created an error variable. So if we have any errors, we're going to just use this particular function to catch the error and put that in a variable. And we are just checking that if the error is actually set, we kill the page and then print out whatever the error is right here. And after that, we have to close the core session, and here is just to var dump whatever result that is. So if I save this page right now and we'll go back to our browser, refresh this page, and if we fill this form right now, let's say we fill this with some dummy kind of text. Let's say Godwin right there. Let's say Henry. Let's just make use of all these things that we used before now. So for the one I'm going to use Dove right here. So we're going to just see this is going to be Godwin, and I hope I do not actually have Godwin in that particular table already. At gmail.com, and the phone number we're going to just make up 1-0812-712-6763. And if we check our table right here, I think we do not actually have that. Okay, so we do not have that already in here. So if we create this right now, if we hit on register now, if we don't have any errors, that should be created. Okay, and it seems like that works just fine. So if you take a look at here, we see that our status is actually set to true, and we see the message customer created. So we've been able to create a customer within Paystack. So if we refresh here right now, we should have Godwin coming. All right, so if you take a look at that, we have Godwin right there. Okay, but if you click on it and open it up, you see that if you go to the dedication or a dedicated virtual account, it does not have any right now. Okay, so that is just that. So what we're going to do right now is that we've been able to create a customer right here. We need to take it further to some other levels. Okay, what I'm going to do first of all is just comment this out, and down here I'm going to do quite a couple of these right here, which I believe you guys already know that, but let's just go ahead and do that together. And the first thing that I'm going to do right now is to make sure that I kind of convert all the things that I'm getting from this particular result right now. I want to convert that to a JSON object. And to do that is going to be very simple. So let's create a new variable and call that result. So that's going to be result. Let's go ahead and set that result to be equal to a JSON. This is going to be JSON underscore the code. And we're going to just basically pass that variable called run, which is up there. We're going to pass that in here. And with that, we'll be able to kind of grab whatever we want to grab and then put that, use something like an arrow. So I'm just trying to convert that to something like an object. And that's actually cool. Okay, so to proceed to the next page right now, because we need to find a way to proceed to this particular page so that we can actually generate something like a virtual account number for the customers that are just signing up with our system. And to do that is actually going to be simple, guys. So what I'm going to do is just put that in an if statement. So I'm going to just say if, and if I actually do continue with this right now, I want to go back to that. Sorry about this. So I want to go back to that page right now. If I go back to here, right here, you see that we have a status right here that is actually set to be true. So I want to make sure that each time we are able to have this particular Boolean value set to true, that means that everything works just fine. The customer creation was actually successful. And with that, I should use that opportunity to like grab onto this customer code right here, because that's basically what we're going to use to create a virtual account number within the virtual account number creation endpoint, which is right here, this particular documentation. Okay, I don't know if that's the documentation, but yeah, so that should be it. So I'm going to come back to there as we move along. But just know that once I get into this place right now, I'm going to just first of all fetch this particular thing called true. Once I fetch it, the rest of the things that are in this particular page are actually embedded into this particular object called data. So to go to the customer code right here, I'm going to just have to pass through this data. So let's go and do that right now. I'm actually sorry that I'm kind of rushing. And the reason that I'm not actually doing this is that I don't want this to be too long, guys. So let's just try rush through it. If you don't understand, you can actually pause and then you go through it again. So I'm going to just say if, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use the new variable that I created called result. So this is going to be result. I just make sure type that right, result, and I want to just use an arrow because I've actually converted that to an object. I'm going to just say status, and if that particular status is actually equal to something like, let's say true, so I'm going to just set that to true. If it is actually equal to true, what do we want to do? What I basically want to do is to go ahead and then fetch the customer code. So I'm going to just say customer underscore code. I want to put that in a variable, and then grabbing that from that particular object, what we need to do is just say result. I want to just say result, and we're going to use arrow and then go through the data object first of all, and after that we can then grab onto the customer code. So this is going to be customer underscore code. Okay, so which is right there. Okay, I think I've actually shown you that right now. So before now, so this is it, customer code. I just make sure that that's actually correct, because if it is not correct, we're going to just get some error. All right, so that should be correct. So I have that in there, and if we have that right there, the next thing that we can do, what I basically want to do is, if I'm able to grab this onto this particular variable, the next thing I want to do is just redirect. So to do that in PHP, you can just say header, and you can just pass in location, and where do I actually want it to relocate to? I want it to go to this van.php virtual account number, and let's just say van.php, and I want to pass the customer code right here through the URL. So for that reason, I'm going to just say something like customer code right here. So I think I have that copy. Then paste that, and we can just go and just say something like that, concatenate onto this particular variable right here. We just want to pass the code through that particular URL. I think that should just basically work. And after that, I want us to use this opportunity to create an else path for this. I'm going to just put else in case if it could not actually grab onto this particular code, if we could not find true right here, what do we want it to do? So we can just basically do anything, but I'm just going to put a die function right here and just say die, and no, I don't have to say die, so I just have to just say something like registration did not succeed, something of that nature, and we can basically pass any information we need right here. We can just say something like refresh, something like that, refresh, I don't know, this page. We can just basically pass any information I want here. You can alternatively just put a link that will help them refresh right here. So, but I'm just going to leave it the way that it is right now. This is not a production application. Okay, so that is just that on that angle. and we can just basically, let's go ahead and then see if we can actually try this and see whether it's going to redirect that particular page, which is right here. And what I'm going to do, you know what, oh yes, let's try that to see if it's going to redirect peacefully. So we'll refresh this page, and I want to fill this form, and let's say Finn Adam, let's just call that Adams, and we should just say something like Finn at gmail.com, and I want to put a phone number again right there, and let's change this to something like 4, and then change this to something like let's call that 9, and let's go ahead and hit on register now, and let's see whether it's going to redirect. And it seems like that redirect just fine. And if you take a look at the URL, we'll have our customer code passed on to that particular place. And if you want to verify that, you can come back to the customers table. You see that Finn comes in and his phone number is right there, and here is his customer, what is it called, the customer code. So quickly the same thing that we have right there. H stops that. That's cool. So that's just that on that angle. So what I'm going to do next is to just basically, I'm going to highlight everything that we have on this page, and I want to go to the van page. I want to paste that right there. And basically what I'm going to do is to modify this page, and I'm going to take away this form because I'm not going to need it. So let's take away the form, and this is how this page is basically looking right now. So if we save and then go back and then refresh, so you see that we basically have something of this nature on this page. So I'm going to modify that to look a little bit like what we presented earlier. All right, so in modifying this page right now, let's bring in those classes that we have at the other side. So this one is going to be registration dash details. I think that's actually what we saw on this particular page, registration dash details. Yeah, so that's actually correct. So I'm going to copy this and then go back right there. Just make sure that it's actually the same thing. Paste that right there. So registration details. So that's the div right now, and I want to just basically change this text that we have in here, and instead of what it is right now, we can just say something like thank you. That's basically going to be a paragraph anyway, but let me just say something like thank you. I'm going to change that to thank you for registering, and I want to change this from what it is right now, something like paragraph. So this should be a paragraph. Change that to paragraph. Okay, so if we have that to be a paragraph, and we say just thank you, and the next thing I want to create is just going to be another list, and I want to actually basically give this a class. So let's just say something like class is equal to something like detail, no, not detail, but thank you. Let's just call that thank you. So this is going to be called a thank you, just like that, and that should be it. So the owner of that list is, this is now the right time to create that. So I'm going to just say u and UL, and I'm going to just say class, and I want to set the class to be equal to something like detail. So call that details dash list, and that should just be that, guys. And I want to go ahead and then let's introduce this right here, and then try to close that down here. Okay, so this is going to be UL, and we'll have that closed. So we are going to basically create some list within this particular place right now, and to do it is not actually hard. So we can just use something like li to do that. Okay, so the first one is going to be first of all, let me just say something like strong, which is HTML5 tag. I want to wrap that around something like bank name, because we're basically also printing out the bank name right there. And let's go ahead and close that by saying strong, and that should be it. And we can actually now go ahead and then do something like use our PHP tag here, just a PHP, and we can echo out the variable that we have not actually created yet, but we're going to create that. So we're going to just call that bank underscore name, and we can go ahead and then let's terminate this line and then close out the PHP tag. It basically is going to be just something like that. So we're going to just say li, and that should be it. So I'm going to copy this right now and then paste it maybe 4 more times or something of that nature. So this is going to be just like that. So I'm going to just basically leave it the way that it is. And the second one, we're going to just basically change that to account name. So this is account name. So change that to account name, and this is going to, the variable that we're going to actually create for that is going to also be account underscore name. So we just account underscore name, and after that account underscore name, we're going to have to create account number. So change this to account number, like that. So this is going to be, let's change this to account number, and we're going to also change the variable. So in the future, we're going to just create a variable that we're going to just basically call account underscore no, which stands for number right there. And after the account number, we can bring in the first name and last name, which we can just basically just do that right here. So I'm going to just say first, and if we just change this from what it is right now to first name, so this is going to be first, underscore name, and then the last one right there, not really the last one, but let's just say last name. So the last name is going to also show up. I should just change this to something like last underscore name, and I think we should paste it one more time just for us to get the email. So let's change this from what it is right now to email, and let's change this to email. All right, so we basically have all of those things that we need represented in here, but we can actually add something like a link down here. So let's just say href. So this is going to be href, and we can go ahead and set that to be equal to, let's say, reg, not reg, but index. So this is going to be index.php, and we can go ahead and close that out right here. So let's just say we have a button, a class. Let's create a class for that, and let's set that to be equal to basically this is going to be back dash button, and that should be that. So the word I want people to see is going to be back, and we can just basically just close that out right here. So that is that. So we want to scroll to the PHP part of it, and what we're going to do in the PHP part of it is going to be a little bit simple anyway. It's going to be very simple, not just a little bit simple, but the first thing we want to do is to just grab onto that which we have on the URL. And I think that what I'm going to do right now is I want to take this away. I want to take this away. I'm actually supposed to take that away. Yeah, so let me take that away for the first time. And what I'm going to just do right now is that first of all, I want to check for something like a GET request from the URL. So I'm just get if. So this is going to be a GET request, and from the GET request, what we'll have on the URL is going to actually be the customer code. So I'm going to just say customer underscore code, and if you don't know where I'm actually getting this customer underscore code, if you go to the browser and then take a look at this place, see that we'll have customer underscore code right here. So that's basically where I'm actually getting that from. So we'll have that in there, and if we have that in place right now, it may be the right time for us to start doing the integration. But before we do that, I want to put the customer code that we have just gotten from the URL into something like a variable. And remember, I should just do something like this set around this, okay? That can actually help us check for when that is actually set or not. So let's just make sure this is set. So if is set $_get customer code, and down here let's just go ahead and do that. I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to just call customer underscore code right there, and I want to set that to be equal to this following lines of code. So I'm going to copy this, paste that right here, and I'm going to wrap the HTML special styles again. So this is going to be HTML special, and let's go ahead and wrap that around this, then terminate that line, and that should be it. So I've gotten the customer code right here, so we're going to use it somewhere, and that's going to basically be somewhere around this place. So the first thing we need to do right now is first of all go get the URL, the endpoint URL. So if we go back to our environment or browser right here, and this is the documentation page for the virtual account number creation. I think I've shown you this page before now, so you just need to get in here, and I just want to take the endpoint right here. So take that and then go back to the browser, the development environment, paste that right there. So I have that in place right now. And after that, what we're doing right here is this is just basically going to be a post request, and we're going to just need just only one thing. So I'm going to take all of these things that we have in here away, and then create the variable. Not really a variable, but the index or whatever. Let me just check that again from the browser. So I want to need this particular line. So I'm going to copy this, and if we go back to our development environment, should paste that right here, and I'm going to just use arrow and then change this from what it is right now to the dynamic variable that we're actually getting from the URL, which is right here. So I'm going to just copy this and then paste that right here. So I do not actually need the comma that is at the end of that place. So that's just that. So I think that the rest of the things in here now should stay, like the initiation of the session right here should stay. All of these things right here, they should basically stay. And what we need to just do right now is if we go down, we need to do some works down here. So the rest of the code that we have on this page should basically stay. Alright, so after checking for the error right here, I think that what we basically need to do some kind of work right here is going to be from this place down. And let's just do that. So just basically after this closing of the core session, and I think we'll just basically have to leave this. I think that we're going to basically need this in this particular page because we're kind of going to run that particular thing. And after that, we are going to basically need to start grabbing onto what is actually coming from the URL. Coming back to us from Paystack. So I want to take all of this away right now. And the first one I want to grab is going to be that of the bank name. Remember that everything that is coming back has been saved into this particular variable called results right there. And to grab onto the bank name, that will be the first thing I want to grab right now. So I'm going to just basically create that variable called bank name. I want to set that to, this is going to be results, and I'm going to use arrow, and we'll set that to be equal to data. And basically, I think we should have actually kind of dumped the results on this page first of all before actually begin to do this thing that I'm doing, because the way that it's actually going to appear as it shows up on this page may not be the same way that we have actually seen before now. But what I'm going to do right now is after this particular line, I'm going to show you that right now. So this is going to be bank. This is going to be just name, and I'm going to save that. And what I want to do is to comment this line out to actually dump the results on the screen for me. So I'm going to save that. And if we go to, we're basically going to have some errors because of this place that we're having here. So we're going to see some errors, you know. So we're going to see some errors, and but that's actually okay. What I'm going to do right now, I just want to refresh this page. Let me refresh, and we have unexpected token right here, which is on line 2. That should be coming from this page, right? So let's go back to van, and we should go to line 2, and right here, so we need an extra closing bracket right there. So I'm going to put that, and that should be okay by now. So if we go back and then refresh, we should not have that error right here. Okay, so you see that the result comes back right now. Notice that we have test bank shown up right here, and the way that I actually fetched that, I don't know if you have seen that. You see that I basically, if you come down here, I basically went through the results, which is right here, because everything is in there, and I went into the data, then bank, and after bank I just said name. So if you take a look at that from the browser, see that I went through the data, went through bank, and I wanted to actually fetch this particular thing. So I needed to just pass through all of these things before I can actually fetch this. That's what I did in there. So the next thing that we want to fetch right now, if you take a look at this environment, the next thing we want to actually fetch now is going to be the account name. And the account name is actually located, sorry about this, the account name is basically located somewhere right here. Okay, so look at the account name, and we're going to just basically pass through the data, but we don't have to pass through the bank this time around because there is a comma right here. So once we pass through the data, we can jump into the account name and then grab onto that. So let's do that right away. So I'm going to copy this line right now and paste that, and this is going to be we change that to account name, right? So this is going to be account underscore name, and we're not going to basically go through this bank that we're having here. So I'm going to take away bank. Let's take away bank, and what we need to just pass through right now is just going to be data, and then we say something like account underscore name. Okay, which is what is on the browser right here. So I'm just basically putting this, representing this right there. Okay, account name, and that is it on that particular one. I think the next one that we want to fetch is going to be that of the account number. So I'm going to paste this right here and then say account number. So let's just say, and oh, that's the variable we created earlier before now, and we basically just need to change this to account number. So this is going to be number, and after that we need to let's paste this again, and what we're going to do on this next one is to just face the customer first name. So I'm going to just say, so let's change this to, this is going to be first name, and in grabbing onto the first name, if you take a look at the structure right here, you see that after we've grabbed onto the account number right here, we need to like move some steps down to be able to see that of the customer. So we need to go through, once we go through data, the next thing we need to pass through is going to be that of the customer right here before we can grab onto the first name, last name, or whatever that we want to grab onto this place. So for that reason, after data, we're going to just have to have customer right here. And after the customer, we can now go ahead and then grab onto whatever we want to grab, like the first name. So we'll just say first name, and that is just that on that particular line. So I'm going to copy that to modify that for last name. So let's paste that right here. And this is going to be last name, so we should just change this to last. Let's make sure it's correctly spelled. This is going to be also last name, LA, like that. And that is just that, guys. So the last one is going to be the email. So I'm going to paste this right here, highlight this, and then change that to email. And let's change this to email. and let's make sure we correct that. So that's just basically the things that we need in here. So I'm going to refresh my browser right here. So if I refresh, and it seems like we've actually basically fetched everything onto this particular place right now. It's just that the CSS is not just looking the way that it should actually look. So I'm going to just basically clear the cache and see whether the style is going to actually come in. Okay, so the style did not actually come in. So let's find out why that is doing that. So if we check our HTML right here. All right, so I think I figured out why the error is actually right there. So this dot in here is what is actually spoiling everything. So we have to remove the dot. So once you take away the dots, I also want to use this opportunity to also bring this out, this submit button. I want to bring that out and then keep that outside right here. Okay, so this is just basically how it should be. So I'm going to save the changes, and if we refresh our browser right now, and I believe basically this is how the former one was actually looking. So we're able to get the bank name, get the account name, and also got the account number and that of the, what is it called, the first name, and then that of the last name, then followed by the email. Okay, so that is just that, guys. So the next thing we need to do is just let's get rid of this code that is actually displaying on this page by placing a comment around this. So if we save that and we'll go back and then refresh this page, and this is it. So we have that right now. It looks just the same way the former one is actually looking, and that is just that. So if we refresh this page right now, we should be able to have the customer, the dedicated virtual account number coming. It should be there. All right, so this is it. So if we click on this place, you see that that account number is actually there. Okay, and then there's a bank name, and that is it. So before I actually close, I need to like review some information. You see, if you want to actually do more with this right now, to take this further, to be able to kind of have a real bank account. This one is actually a real. Let me just stop using the name real on real right here. So this is actually a real account number. But if you will switch to a live point, I'm going to actually get an account from, let's say, Wema Bank or Titan Paystack account number right there, okay, or bank name, whatever you want to call that. So, all right, before I actually close this video, I want to actually mention quite a few things. You can actually put the result that we have in here right now into your database. But then I know that quite a lot of you might be asking, if people transfer money to this particular account, how do I kind of take record of that and put that into my database? Okay, you can actually do that with something that they call webhook. You can use a webhook to do that, and I have a video that you can actually watch to learn how to do that. And if you, I'm going to put the link to that video in the description box below, so they can go ahead and watch it and to see what you can actually do for yourself. Okay, so you basically have to like grab onto that particular payment that people are actually transferring into account. If they are using something like USSD code or using their mobile bank app to do the transfer, webhook will always have to, Paystack webhook will always have to push that payment into your webhook URL. So you just need to know how to use that. So I'm going to put the link in the description so that you can go and watch that. And after that, if you want more about Paystack integration, I actually wrote an ebook that you guys can actually get if you need that. And if you want to actually get that, you can send a message or an email to thelordofapps@gmail.com, or you can actually find my phone number around here and then chat me up on WhatsApp to get that particular ebook. And it's not only just an ebook, also I think I also have the video version of it. So I also taught how to do that, and I visited some crucial endpoint like the subscription endpoint, sub account, just quite a lot of endpoints that I have not actually covered on my channel. So I just reserved that for people who actually want to upskill their skills with Paystack integration and then building fintech applications. So if you need that, just feel free to contact me using my email, thelordofapps@gmail.com, or use my phone number, which is found somewhere around this place. And it's actually a premium course, so I'm going to give that to you at a discount rate. Thanks for watching, and if you have not subscribed to the channel, I think it's the right time to actually subscribe. And if you like this video, just go ahead and hit the like button. And if you don't even like it, you're also free to hit the dislike button. And I'll see you in the next one.